Hello and welcome to the show. For today's Hot Wheels Showdown, I've got the Lexus LFA. Now this is, let's face it, the base car, very, very quick indeed. However, it does have a very high starting PI, which means upgrade-wise, I'm not going to be able to do a huge amount to this. Now that can often be a little bit of a difficult thing with build series. Cars that start, well, in the class that we are building them to, do not have much wriggle room for parts. However, so far in this series, I think the main two, the Aston Martin DB11 did relatively okay. As did the Hooligan RX-7. Admittedly, that's a little bit different. That's kind of pre-modified crazy. That still sits in 4th overall. So there is potential for the LFA to actually put in a rather good showing. Now, the first thing we must do is, of course, put the car on the Hot Wheels race compound tyre, the same tyre that every vehicle has to run. That will put it up to, well over halfway through S1 class. There's a lot of the PI that I have to play with are gone into the tyres. I'm also going to want as big a tyres as I can get. 295s at the front. We can get some nice tyres. 345s at the rear. Because grip is very important in this series. As we have seen time and time again, we are going to need a lot of grip. Perhaps the power to weight ratio is a concern with this car, but if we have lots of power and not a huge amount of control, that doesn't work either. So you've got to try and find a balance somewhere. Let's get it on some race tyres. We want all of the handling things that we can get. I mean, 500 horsepower and 3,200 pounds isn't the worst thing in the world, but I would like the car to be bugger. I'd like the car to be lighter. 2,700 pounds and 500 horsepower. It's not too bad. Torque isn't amazing in this. Now, I'm going to do that in the hope that we can squeak a PI back. Now, there are ways of doing this. There are ways of doing... bugger. Of course, it doesn't have oil and cooling because it's naturally aspirated from stock. None of that's going to work. Sometimes, very rarely, sometimes gearbox can. We actually do need sport transmission as well because we need to have potentially adjustable gears depending on how it runs at the Hot Wheels circuit because of the long straight, the downhill, well, I say downhill, almost vertical downhill straight. Bugger. That's going to be a real pain in the ass, isn't it? Because I bet we can put it back on the standard. The standard suspension doesn't even put the PI to the right place. Let's try... standard suspension without that's not making any difference to the PI. Oh, that's a real pain in the ass with 2 PI over where I really want to be with this. I guess we're going to have to try. That's a lot of weight. It's a lot of weight for not much PI, but I don't have... I guess what I might actually be able to do is if we go to the tyre width. I don't really want to have to reduce the tyre width, but it might be necessary on this to get the weight down to where I want. We want 325s at the rear. I guess then maybe 285s at the front instead of 295. 285 is still a big front tyre from what we have seen in the past, so I think I will go for that combination. And then we have 1 PI to play with. Can I do anything in terms of engine? Probably not. I think we're going to be stuck with a largely stock engine. Exhaust always likely to be too much. Maybe valves. Nope. Yeah, I think all of this is going to add... Oh, there we go. We can get 5 more horsepower. 5 more horsepower from the engine. Yeah, let's do that. We'll see if we can sneak on... we can sneak on a flywheel as well. There's only a pound of weight saved, but anything is better than nothing. Hey, we can sneak on a driveline as well. See, it was worth going through all of these. Can't do a clutch, though. It's down a little bit in terms of the power to weight ratio from what we have seen. The hope is that... well, the base car, the Lexus LFA to begin with, is a very, very good vehicle, so it might be able to make up some time with being a good handling supercar. Fingers crossed, at least. So, we are off to the skyscraper takeoff circuit with the Lexus LFA. I'm going to have 5 laps to try and go as fast as possible. Now, I'll be honest, not expecting to see this car towards the top of the table. The Commodore's 132.8. I think he's going to be fairly safe. The LFA's main rival, probably looking around the mid-20th ish positions on the table. The Aston Martin DB11 was a 34.7. I think if we can be getting around near that, might have a little bit more speed in the LFA. I might expect it to be a little bit better handling through the corners. And as we have seen in the past, being able to carry corner speed can be very helpful indeed. So, yeah, if we can get the low 34s, change direction is very good in this car. Found out immediately. Yeah, if we can get the low 34s, it's going to be flat out through turn 3. Absolutely no problem, is it? Yep, no problems whatsoever for the LFA. Low 34s, maybe, I think it'd be probably pushing. I'm not sure we've got enough speed, straight line speed. I'll have to wait and see how quick it's going to go in terms of the final sector, in terms of that big old loop. How much can we carry? Wow, we can carry a lot through there. I think this is going to challenge the Esprit for some of those corner speed records, because that is quite impressive. Nope, we don't want fourth through through that part. Cocked up the run completely. Coming down here, we can be really late on the brakes if we wanted through there. Oh, we're going to brush the wall on the outside. Not quite. There's a lot of grip. There is humongous amounts of grip in the LFA as we tip it into the next corner. Not quite going to be flat out through there, but I tell you what, that's probably the closest a car has ever come at that turn. Now, it does, of course, help that we are going a bit slower in the Lexus than perhaps some other cars in terms of being flat out through turns, but still, the level of grip in this is remarkable. Oh, the level of straight line speed is not remarkable. That's struggling there around the loop. We're up to 195 miles an hour on the exit. Yeah, okay, so straight line speed is lacking, to say the least. 37.6, though, for an opening lap, that's not actually that bad at all for an opening lap. Considering we bumped the wall and we're generally scruffy and all of that, yeah, that's pretty good going. There's so much turning through that third corner. That's ridiculously good as we head up through turn 4. Am I going to be I'm not quite going to be able to do flat there, considering that was me having a little bit of a lift through that section, but I tell you what, that is bloody close. How fast can we be? That might beat the Esprit at that section. Again, I wasn't quite sure what we could and couldn't do. I could have got away with more if I had wanted to, but then we started to struggle. This is where we will struggle. 158 miles an hour. Some of the slower straight line speeds we have seen. I know it's strange to say that about a car doing 160 miles an hour in a relatively short space of time, but for what we've seen in this series, yeah, that's relatively slow. It's 20 miles an hour down on the Gremlin, for example. I got that corner all completely wrong. That won't help matters whatsoever. Right, onto the boost pads we go. Now, these do kind of help negate some of the Lexus's deficiencies, because they will catapult the car up towards that 200 mile an hour mark. It doesn't have to do it all completely and utterly on its own, but it's still only an element. I mean, it's 30 miles an hour down on some of the faster vehicles at the bottom of that loop. Still, it's a 34.4. We're already getting towards that low at 34, and I think there's more speed to come out of this. That's actually a fair bit quicker than I was expecting from the LFA. I thought it might struggle a tad more than it is. I mean, this is a pretty much pure handling car taking on this course at the moment. That's a lot of speed coming up through turn 4. It's pure handling in comparison to the other vehicles that have run in this series. Oh, I turned in too late there. I had to have a big lift. That was a bit of unfortunate car positioning from me. Stay on the throttle for so long into these corners. It's really very, very impressive how late, dare I be, under brakes. It's, well, going so much slower into the braking zones and having utterly phenomenal brakes means you can be braking a lot later. You can be braking stupidly late, in fact, with this car. Ooh, got the back end out. That's not fun. Haven't had a car do that for a little while. Really unsettled it on the way into there. It was terrible. Never mind, we're out the other side. We're in one piece. Now, we will need to have a nice boost off of that. That's perfect. 206 miles an hour from the second boost pad there. We need to get a good run off of that because we need all of the speed we can get up around that loop because, yeah, we are so far down in terms of top end. I'm still braking a little early for this final quarter. Admittedly, I can get it through there nicely. What is that? 34.7. Wasn't a better lap. It's still, I mean, we're still looking at, oh, it's a little bit skew whiff through turn 2. Yeah, I think there is a 33, maybe doable with this. It's a real maybe. It's a real maybe because you've got to get every single corner nailed. There is no margin for error. Not that there's a huge margin of error with anything, let's face it, around here. But you lose a little bit of momentum through one quarter and it hurts this car a lot more than perhaps some other vehicles because it just doesn't have the power to make up for it. Other cars might get away a little bit more than the LFA does because it needs every half a mile an hour it can around a turn to make up for its lack of power, its lack of straight line speed. Through the crossover section we go. There's a little bit of a wiggle through there, I'll be honest. Wasn't expecting to have the car do wiggles. Being relatively low on power and relatively large of tyre size, it's, yeah, okay, there were bigger tyre options, but considering we're so far down on power compared to some competitor cars, I wasn't expecting necessarily to see wiggles from the LFA. On the most part, though, very, very composed. I don't worry about this car being unpredictable. Right, let's get some speed. Hug the inside as much as you dare before running to the outside. It's a big stop into the final corner. Have we got into the 33s yet? No, it's still a 34. Still a 34. What can we do on this final lap? I'm not sure I can get. I mean, we really needed 0.4 of a second. The dirty lap will count if I can't go quicker on these final laps. But we need a little bit more from the Lexus. Need every single corner carrying as much speed as possible. It's lovely to drive, I will say that much. There have been some pretty good handling cars of late go, things like the Lotus Esprit and so on, but tell you what, this thing is a seriously nice car to drive. I almost got that corner flat. Again, it's so close to being flat out through some of these turns. On the brakes into the crossover we go. Don't wiggle the rear of the car. Come on, Lexus, behave yourself. I really don't want the back of the car moving around. Anytime we're getting oversteer, anytime it's moving about, you know, that's just a little bit of momentum that we've lost. That's that half mile an hour that might make the difference in the end. I don't know through all of this. Final time across the boost pads we go. It's a little nice. Let's say it's a little bit wonky. It's not too bad though. We get a good run off of that second pad up to that 206 miles an hour. It's getting pretty consistently good runs off of the boost, which is very helpful. It is very, very much needed. Now, can we get it nicely through the final turn? Carry as much speed as I dare. It's into the 33s. We did it on the final lap. That is quick. That is very quick from the LFA. A 33.8. That is all quarter speed. That's to have gone within a second of the Commodore is bloody good going. That's incredible going for the LFA because, yeah, that is 100% down to its corner speed. Well, that time, what is it, 33.861. It is enough to put the car into a 12th place. 12th place on the leaderboard for the LFA with very little in the way of PI to play with. Quite frankly, very little in the way of power and straight line speed. It will go faster than, well, the Mercedes 190e, Porsche 928 GTS. It beats the Supra Mark III, the Evo 9, Corvette Stingray RX-8. Loses out fractionally to the MX-5. Actually loses out a little bit to the Genesis. Only a 1/10 of a second off the Lotus Elise around here. That big three-way tie. That's phenomenal corner speed. The amount that this is making up through the turns and in the braking zones is incredible. To be so far down in terms of straight line speed. It's not the slowest we've had, but it's certainly one of the slowest we've had in terms of that straight line speed. And to have made up so much time to be so close to the Commodore is, yeah, testament to just how bloody good the Lexus is when it comes to the corners. That is one hell of a car. And, of course, it makes a brilliant, brilliant noise, which is always an added bonus. That, though, is going to be it for this video. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, goodbye.